Oh, we're in it, Stitt-Heads. Crack a beer. It's not a natty this time. It's a freaking, or not natty. It's not a Keystone. It's a PBR, but whatever. We're going to change it up a little bit because we're going to get weird today, all right? There's so many weird things going on in the world that keep us distracted from everything else, but there's actually weirder shit out there that we kind of forget about because our force is drained every damn day by the 24/7 news media and all that shit. So, anyways, welcome to the show. A guest I've been listening to for multiple years, many other podcasts. Great fucking researcher. I'm glad to make this connection finally. Chris Mathieu, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Derek, what's up, man? Thank you so much for having me on. Ready to get weird with you, bro.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, some weirdness in the world, like what I kind of really messaged you, to be honest with you, about was in the first place was me and my wife were always like, okay, let's take one vacation each year for us and then one vacation with three kids, right? Because a vacation with three kids is not really a vacation. It's fucking babysitting and it's a lot of shit to deal with, so you don't really get to let loose. So we were like, well, what if we went to like a national park? We were thinking about Yosemite. That was like one of the only reasons to kind of drag me to California in the first place. And then I started thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, but man, like the national park stories get really weird because most of them go unsolved. A lot of them just really get forgotten about. If you've noticed in your research over the years, it's kind of just like, Teddy Roosevelt opens national park systems, but he also wrote about kind of Bigfoots and other fucking monsters and stuff over the years. So you're like, did we just make a big prison for these things? And if people go missing in it, that's just kind of like a, so what? You see where I'm kind of going with that?
Yeah.
Should we
Yeah,
jump
man.
in a little bit?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. I've never had any personal experiences with cryptids or any what you would probably consider traditional paranormal experiences, but I've spoken with many, many people who have. I kind of put myself through the metaphysical ringer, you could say, with my own psychedelic experiences and meditation. Very strange things would occur through some of those situations, but other than that, haven't really experienced anything personal. But I am definitely fascinated with the possibilities surrounding things like the missing 411 and cryptids and beings. And recently, something has been pushing the guests I've been having and the conversations more towards a reality that whatever these beings are may not be separate beings, that it may be one all-encompassing intelligence, somewhat connected to simulation theory, but
Mm.
that there are actually intelligences involved and they pull strings, kind of like a, have you seen Dark City? Kind of like a
No,
Dark City
I,
scenario.
I've passed by the movie multiple times. Is that the one with Kiefer Sutherland in it? I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's on my watch list, man. I've actually watched. Anyways,
So I don't
continue
want to
though.
give it away for you, but basically the whole reality is controlled by these beings,
Hmm.
and don't necessarily have our best interest in mind. But where I'm at with everything right now is I have no idea. We could get a little deeper into that
That's
and
where it's fun, is
explore
not having
some.
any idea, just having
Oh, yeah,
questions.
that's
Yeah.
right. I have more questions now than I ever had any answers. But as far as the individual situations and experiences that people's have connected to high strangeness, like cryptids and disappearances and things like that, they can vary tremendously. But I think when we look at the similarities, that's what points to there is something that we don't really understand, and it's not just one thing or the other. It's a little bit of everything because it seems to be interwoven and connected in that way. But that's just where I'm at with
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote the phenomena right now.
It seems like it's just like a high strangeness. It's like Tripoli's basically said, like it's like certain places are like a haunted house,
Yeah.
and in a haunted house could have five different entities, all with five different, outcomes that they're trying to come up with at the same time. Like they're not on the same page. That's what it seems like a lot of these weird stories, whether it's, Orbs, whether it's the Skinwalker Ranch and some of these other places, like they're not always the exact same story, but there's a weirdness that's very similar, kind of like you're saying, to a lot of them when you narrow it down.
It is when we look at the place, the individual places like Skinwalker Ranch or other any places of high strangeness, there are certain things that happen across the board, and you can go to those areas and expect something to happen. But if you look at people who have high strangeness that follow them around, there is something connected with that individual's consciousness that either their perception is open enough to be able to perceive these things, or whatever this is attracted to them in some way. But there's also another level of this, people who go seeking the phenomena and are, for example, magical practitioners or occultists. They open up something in their lives and the phenomena starts to manifest around them in certain ways. So I think it's
Mm.
everywhere. I think we have certain keys that can unlock the experience in certain locations, and I think certain locations are more potent, meaning maybe the veil is thinner there and the energy is different. We have access to it, but there's also certain people with access to it, and I think we all have the potential to access it. We just have to have that certain connection and make that connection with it. I personally made a connection with it through the psychedelic and meditative experiences. I have a connection with now what I call my guides, but still I question that. I question that experience
Yeah.
because I don't know exactly what I'm speaking with. There was a while in my life where I was taking the guidance of these beings, just, pretty much just doing whatever they wanted me to do because I felt that they were angels or spirit guides and everything they had told me was true. And they seemed to be very benevolent and guiding me towards good experiences. I no longer do that. I no longer listen to these beings because I have heard too many other experiences and I know how this stuff works much better now. And there seems to be a level of deception, even with the most benevolent experiences, with the most benevolent contact experiences, whether it's for our greater good, whether they know something more than we don't and they're guiding us towards something, I don't know. But the more I look at it, it just seems to be two sides of the same phenomena. Say it's wearing a mask of Jesus. It's wearing a mask
Yeah.
of demons, and it presents itself however it wants you to see the phenomena.
Right. I see that too. If you think about it, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever your intentions, whatever you're looking into, whatever you're interested in, that's what it tries to latch onto. Whether it's your dead grandma that you miss and they know that they can grab you with that, whether it's you want to see Jesus, whether it's whatever, it's it's really interesting. Let me ask you this then. So you said after you stopped talking, like not talking, but after you stopped listening to what your, whatever they were on that other side of the veil, was there any pushback? Like, did you
No,
feel
no,
any
no.
pushback or any weird like
No, and I'm not going
repercussions?
to say I stopped listening. There's still communication, and I do still listen to the messages that come through, and I listen fearlessly. I don't have any fear that I'm communicating because whatever this is, I've come to realize has been with me my whole life. It's
Hmm.
my conscience. It's
You
whatever
awakened it. Yeah.
yeah, it's whatever keeps you from stepping off a cliff. It's that gut feeling you get about certain situations. It's connected. It's all the same thing. But do I trust it wholeheartedly? No, I do not, because still, I don't know what is beyond the veil. I don't know what this existence, this reality, my incarnation is truly about. I have considerations. I know what works for me, and I know I do have a belief in a creator God. And I've had enough experiences that point me to the power of Christ consciousness, and whatever Christ is, there's something very powerful there as well. Other than that, I couldn't tell you what is going on in these spirit realms, but that is why I do this every day because I'm trying to dig a little deeper into it and find out a little bit more as much as I can.
Well, yeah, and that's what makes it interesting is, we get into conspiracies, whether it's government or whether it's NASA or, well, I guess that's government, or whether it's, history in itself or entities or Bigfoots or whatever. We get into these ideas of like, hey, these people that say they're telling us the truth aren't really telling us the truth. So then your friends will be like, oh, so you know the answers to everything? I'm like, no, the more you dig into shit, like you realize I know nothing. I'm retarded. Like, like at least you're looking into it, but you're like you come up with 100 more questions for half of an answer, and that's the interesting thing about not knowing what's there. Some people think Bigfoot is a real human entity. I mean, not human, but a real entity. Some people think he's a metaphysical thing that comes in and out of portals and shit. I mean, back to energies and ley lines and things like that. There's a lot of mysteries in this world that it's kind of weird that like seems like more like the evil people want to tap a little more into them, but it's nice to know there's good intentioned people out there too trying to figure out what the hell these things are.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of interest from our three-letter agencies, military industrial complex, in the quote unquote phenomena. My friend Ryan Burns, who has the Space Wolf research next to Skinwalker Ranch, these people come out there, four-star generals and people involved with the aerospace companies and the military, and they basically throw money at him. But it's the strangest thing. Yes, they're doing scientific experiments, but a lot of these guys are doing rituals out there and they're doing
Hmm.
magic and they're trying to summon things. And traditional UFO lore has nothing to do with ritual magic or summoning things. It's little green men coming on tin cans from different galaxies and probing our assholes.
Hmm.
But there's something much more going on to that with it, and I think at some high levels they do understand that there is something more going on with it, and there seems to be a game being played at higher levels, which I don't really understand exactly how it's all put together yet, because we have the congressional whistleblowers who are portraying one understanding of things, which coincides with a threat from outer space. And then we have these deeper level people like the Collins elite and others involved at the high level in the Pentagon who are saying that it's demonic forces, that we shouldn't be trusting it. So, in my perspective, the answer's somewhere in between all that. There's a huge space in between to explore. So, it's almost impossible to understand right now.
Yeah.
But I think that we're getting to a point where it's going to be harder and harder for them to obfuscate the fact that there is something metaphysical beyond green men coming from planets involved with all of this.
I think it's a little bit of all the above, is they want you to go into this like binary idea of like, okay, you believe this isn't a flat earth or round earth debate, but it's like they want you to believe that there's little green men from millions of light years away, and you're like, okay, there's that space travel side of it. Why the hell would they come to Earth? But then there's also this other idea of like, no, they're already here, man. Like, what if they're in the oceans and what if they're in blah blah blah? And like I think there's a little bit of truth in all these things. What if some of these things, yeah, can transcend time and space itself? And we don't even know whether it's like, what if, say, hypothetically, demons and aliens both exist and they both have a little bit of the same powers? So we're kind of like misconstruing one for the other. You kind of see where I'm going with like that,
Mm.
that binary, or it's like some people say, oh, aliens are demons, and other people are like Independence Day, ready to welcome the aliens, and then they get blasted on the rooftop?
Yeah, I am at a point where I am a cautious observer, but I'm not going to go into anything with fear because, from my own experiences, fear is fuel for whatever the negative entities are. And I'm not even sure that they're truly negative in a sense. We'll get to that a little later because there is a huge ocean of possibilities with this that I'd like to explore. But when it comes to the the phenomena of, say, UFO abductions that have people have traditionally experienced, the gray beings and being taken on craft, having genetic experiments done to them. And this is something that started out with, you can say, around the 40s and 50s, and then they had the Betty and Barney Hill case, but
Mm-hmm.
it was all being slowly dripped into the consciousness through what we saw on the television and media and through books that were coming out through these early experiencers.
World War II and
And
beyond. Yeah.
and
Rocketry.
then
Yep.
we have the book Communion, which I remember when I was a kid, I saw the alien gray face on that thing, and it stuck with me. It was so powerful that I had nightmares about that thing. But these kept building in the collective consciousness. And then we have people who start regularly experiencing this, and it just became a phenomena that people accepted as this is what's happening. And then later on, you get into the past life regressions and hypnotism, and they're bringing spirituality into the UFO fields, and people start to realize when they're being regressed, oh, this isn't exactly what happened. It happened a different way. And you start connecting it more with altered states of consciousness and the way that the interactions go with these beings. It seems like they have the ability to control our perception, to completely control our reality and change it. And it kept progressing to where now we have two different kind of experiences that people have. We have the negative abductions, and then we have these positive experiences where
Hmm.
angelic celestial beings will not necessarily abduct people, but come to them in their dreams, or it'll be a nice, benevolent, beautiful experience where they are given information about the planet or themselves, but it's or they're healed in some way. And then you have the other abduction, the negative experiences. But in our modern negative abduction experiences, people report military personnel often being involved with this. This is a huge red flag because it comes up quite often with the more negative cases that there are humans involved with this.
Hmm.
So the level of deception can go pretty deep, and it's pretty difficult to navigate through the phenomena as it stands right now.
Dude, and oh my God, there's a lot to unpack there. But just towards that last part, you just got my brain really going on like the idea of the three-letter agencies, the men in black, situations like that, the ones that where, most a lot of modern cases, or even in the past couple decades or however long, you'll hear these people say that, yeah, like right after I saw this thing, these guys showed up. Not the alien guys, these dudes in black Suburbans or black Cadillacs or whatever, and this men in black type scenario. And then it really gives you this like opening a Pandora's box kind of idea of like, well, wait a minute. Are these guys waiting and tracking these things that are happening on a radar or something, or in a pulse wave system, or whatever these things these aliens are, traveling with? Are they aware? It's almost like, like a shooting situation, and then the FBI comes out and says, yeah, he was on our radar. Like, oh, you knew beforehand, you allowed it to happen. Or are these guys like tracking it and they're just a little too slow? And then there's like, oh, here's a situation. Let's talk to the people now. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
There's a similar thing that happens with like Bigfoot cases and people who come into contact with things like dogmen. There are these agents or wildlife agents or some
Mm-hmm.
official that shows up within minutes of the incident and explains to you what you really saw and how you shouldn't talk about anything. And this is reported all the time. But it goes deeper too, because I think that, like you're saying, is there some kind of notification system? I think there are people that are deeply involved with the phenomena itself, meaning I'm talking Agent Smith Matrix type
Mm-hmm.
stuff. That
Mm-hmm.
there may be non-human humans that just look like you and me that can come in and adjust things.
They're the handlers.
Again,
They're like the
again, like the
wolf. Yeah.
Adjustment Bureau, like
Yeah,
the
dude. Yeah.
Dark City.
The
Yeah.
fucking cleanup guy on Pulp Fiction, the wolf or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, man. So this again points to simulated reality, matrix reality. I don't know. But going back to the Bigfoot and 411 cases. So I've had a few guests recently. Some of them claim to be able to speak with other entities. I had one who is just a magical practitioner who understands a lot of metaphysical concepts. And I had a couple that are Bigfoot researchers. So the common thread between all those guests is they claimed, not in exactly the same way, but they claim that there is some sort of human hunting license against human hunting license that etheric elemental, Bigfoots, fairies, these beings have license to take someone if they wander too far off a certain path, if they are disrespectful in national forest, if they take
Ah,
things that they're not supposed to take.
it's like Predator movies, dude. Yeah, exactly.
But there is a class of beings that are predatory,
Ooh.
that are kind of etheric. They are what you would call elementals or fairies, and they're in the same kind of classification as Bigfoot, according to all these researchers that I've recently spoken with. And they have license to take people, and there's apparently some sort of disagreement amongst the entities if they should even be doing that. There's ones that disagree with it. There are some that think we're food and delicious. So crazy stuff out there. But I do think that there are, anytime we are entering into a national forest or wildlife area, there are unseen intelligences everywhere. And I've gotten hitchhikers come home with me from camping trips and other areas that I've gone to that will manifest in your home as poltergeists or hauntings or extremely
Mm.
negative energy. It's pretty wild.
Kind of creepy, man. Well,
Yeah.
and a lot of these people, even if they're not into these kind of subjects, these, whatever, just families on vacation, like I was alluding to earlier, kind of deal, they'll go and they'll say there's this magic to these places when they go to these, national parks. And kind of what I was alluding to earlier of like Teddy Roosevelt and the national park system and everything being this big hunter. And then we heard all these stories from 1800s of different things of giants and this and that and trolls and whatever else you could think of that were in newspaper articles and stuff, whether it was true or not. But I'm just saying, like, you get into the idea of like what you're saying, almost a hunting pass for humans if they trespass too deep. And because people don't realize with national parks, most people barely go into them. They're
Mhm.
drastically bigger than where most people really venture into. And they warn you about that. And it's kind of like, what the fuck is hiding in there, man? Like it could be a little bit of everything. It's a buffet, you know?
Yeah, yeah. But Sasquatch is still kind of an enigma to me because they've had so many physical aspects that have been reported over the years, even a little bit of physical evidence here and there, the footprints, the hair. I've
Hmm.
heard a couple of people say they found Bigfoot shit somewhere. So
Really?
there is that aspect that I wonder how physical these beings are, but there is also, have you heard of the gifting fields?
The gifting fields.
So
Maybe, maybe not. Go ahead and
there
explain
are
it.
there are these very powerful three-letter agency groups, and they're not officially like a group, but they have different individuals like from the CIA, FBI that get together, call them the Invisible College, but
Okay.
they are specifically looking into UFOs, but they know that there's something more occult driven behind it. Well, these groups apparently can go to this area. Diana Pasulka wrote about it that
Okay, I know that name.
metamaterials just appear for them. So they go out to this area and they are gifted these strange things, but they look like regular objects that we'd have here, like rocks or blades of grass, but their their makeup is different. There's whenever you analyze it in a lab, different isotopes, all that,
Hmm.
and it's not a natural object. Well,
Interesting.
they have the ability, from what I understand, to manifest anything. Not only that, whole areas. That's why people who are abducted, they say they look up and they see a ship in the air, and then next second they're on it, but it's like a city, and they could, it's way
Yeah.
bigger than they've ever seen it. So there's that aspect of it. But
Manipulation. Yeah.
also, I wonder how much whatever these things are can take physical form if they want to. If they can manifest objects into our reality, I'm sure they can also manifest other different forms that they would like to see. Maybe a Sasquatch is something like that. But talking about the manifestation of objects, I had Nathaniel Gillis on the other day, and he's a demonologist, but he is looking way deeper into than most people do, and he's connecting it with ufology and things like that. But he was talking about cases of haunted houses where objects would materialize that the family didn't have, and in one case, the homeowner got so angry and threw it and broke it, and it rematerialized in the same place. Well, they'd take
Mm.
these objects to a laboratory and have them analyzed. And like I said, they'd have different isotopes than, say, one of the objects was a teacup from a set that the family had lost, and it reappeared one day, and they had a bunch of strange circumstances surrounding that teacup. So they brought it to a lab, had it analyzed, had the other cups in that set analyzed, and it was a completely different makeup than the other cups, meaning that
Weird.
whatever the phenomena had created this, and he believes somehow it was anchored to it. He also cited some extreme possession cases where people would throw up objects that they never swallowed, just
Uh-huh.
manifest objects and things like that. So yeah, there's that capability, and if it has the capability to just create things, create reality, what does that? What are the implications of that? What is that?
Well,
Right?
that gets into like the weird ghost and like haunting possession stories and stuff too, of like people that just start like throwing up flies and things like
Yeah.
that, where you're like, you didn't eat the fly. Like, where the hell did that fly just come from? Like you're talking about, it's like it's being created, whether it's a real item or not. It's there at the moment, and it's like, what is that? And you get me thinking like almost like it's a Sims video game or something, like the virtual reality or
Are you familiar with Danny Goler and the DMT experiments?
I've heard of them, yeah. But what I was gonna say is just the idea of like you buy this little item and then it wasn't there a second ago, and now you can place it in your house on Sims, and it's like, or even the
Yeah.
idea of like fake steak, it's like Bill Gates and his processed meat. It looks real, but it's not the same thing. Like it's this weird like it's crazy, man. Like the idea of also like Ouija boards, people can't get
Hmm.
rid of certain ones. Where it's an interesting thought when you go into Target or Walmart and it's just a Milton Bradley or whoever the fuck makes it, but it's just, a board game sitting on the shelf. It's cardboard. But until the intention is put into it, until you manifest, you push power and energies into it, good or bad energies, it's this weird idea of like, we've heard a million stories of somebody that said, "Oh, me and my friends dicking around one night, smoking weed, and we were playing with Ouija board. And then I tried to throw it away a couple weeks later because weird stuff was happening. It kept showing back up at my house." And it's the same kind of thing. It's like there's shit
Yeah.
outside of our realm of possibilities that are equally terrifying. But I wonder, like, where's the good ones, man? Like we were kind of alluding to earlier about like alien, stuff. Like, let's get into some good. Like, has there been any situations where I guess I don't know, just coming into
So there's
contact
a
with
ton of
entities that
reports
helped save
of
a battle or a war or I don't know.
well, there's tons of reports of, quote unquote good contact with entities. I've had my own very insane experiences, both good and bad.
Tell me something.
But I
Tell me
think
good
it
ones. Yeah,
is all right. So, well, good experience is going to take the rest of the evening, but
go for it.
all right. Well, I'll have to preface it with the bad. So, it just works like that. So, this was whenever I was having very powerful mushroom explorations. I started growing mushrooms a while back. I don't
Nice.
anymore, but this was for a period of about, I don't know, 3 years. I grew mushrooms and I would take monthly, very powerful high dose journeys because I was trying to figure out the secrets of the universe. I was trying to get in contact with things, and I wasn't careless when I did. I had a very rigid spiritual foundation, and I would go in with protection. I was very respectful every time I do it, and the experiences were so profound. But this one experience I had was, I don't know, about 3 years ago, and I no longer utilize the mushrooms anymore. I think I got everything I needed out of them, but just to throw that in there, this experience is with an ex girlfriend that I had, and she had never done mushrooms, and she was kind of shady, but I didn't see it at the time. My friends did, but
Hmm.
no, I wasn't. I was kind of blind to everything. So I dose her. She had never done it before. And I had very powerful mushrooms at the time, and I was in it, I was feeling everything, and she's like, "No, I don't feel nothing." So 2 or 3 hours go by, and I end up giving her like 5 grams, and she claims
Oh shit.
she
Yeah.
didn't feel nothing. And I was like, "What? This is weird." But I understand there are people out there that they can't connect with that, or if they're taking
Yeah.
some kind of SSRIs, it has a blocker. So whatever. I was like, "All right, well, I guess it doesn't work for you." So she's also a psychic and healer. So she's like, let's do a regression on you and try to do some, healing some childhood trauma. And I was stupid. So I was like, yeah, let's go for it.
Uh-oh.
So we do the experience. And from what I remember, it went well. There wasn't anything strange with that. But afterwards, and I'll preface this with all my mushroom experiences until this experience, never had I had hallucinations like I couldn't tell that this is not reality anymore. Never was it so all encompassing. But what happened was I'm talking with her, and whatever she's saying, it's kind of sounding weird to me. And I look up at her, and this is what I heard. She said, so I found you a while back, and I attached myself, and I led you to where you need to be, and now I think
Whoa.
you don't love me anymore. And when she said that, I shit you not, dude, she shapeshifted into a reptile, and she had big yellow teeth, and she even grew a couple of feet. She was like 6 foot tall, still wearing my ex's nightgown. And I was like, what? I'm out. I took off running. I didn't know what the
Yeah.
hell's going on. I run to my basement. I hear like stomping behind me. I look behind me. There's a 6 foot tall lizard running after me. Dude, I locked myself in my basement. Thoughts going through my head like, okay, I'm dead. I'm the first to overdose on mushrooms. I'm in hell. I don't know. I'm in a different dimension. What the fuck is going on? As I'm thinking that, my whole house turns into like a dungeon. It changes. I'm in this
Ooh.
like dungeon. I look out the window, there's blood red sky, bars on the windows. I am absolutely freaking out. I was like, I have to be dead. I don't know what to do. Somehow I managed to sneak back upstairs without seeing the lizard. And the only thing I can think to do is jump in the tub and start praying. So I
Yeah.
turn on the shower, and I'm like, before I could even finish saying God, like I got this huge like rumble from within my stomach, and I puked up this black viscous goo is all I can describe it as, and everything just snapped back to normal. But it felt like I had this like beautiful benevolent presence in the room. I couldn't see anything, but I felt like this powerful, beautiful, benevolent presence there with me, and like everything was okay. And I just knew everything was okay. Whatever that was is gone. And I opened my door, and my ex is sitting on the bed, and she's like, "What happened?" And I like at the moment I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I went and grabbed a fucking bottle of wine and downed the whole thing and passed out.
Wow.
But this is where everything comes together and we can understand the story. The next few days and weeks, I started to see a side of her that was very different, a very cold, maybe you could say reptilian side. And
You open the veil. It's almost like she took over the trip. Like,
that's
you have your
dude,
trip buddies that you
she
stay on the
started
same
like
level with. Yeah, she took
stealing
it over.
money and all kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh, the mushroom was trying to show me you, what
Yes.
you are.
True
And I
intention.
broke it off. Yes, bro. So that was my first like really powerful metaphysical experience with psychedelics that really connected into this realm and how things work synchronistically, and what there's something else behind our reality. That's the first time. Now this is the benevolent story. That one kind of ended benevolent, but this is the one where I found JC again, and it's pretty wild. But I remember this was a couple of years ago. It was actually the last time I really did mushrooms in a spiritual setting and trying with intention and things like that. So, my now wife, who's best friend, love of my life,
Awesome.
we were together at this time. We had just gotten married recently, and she's like, "Well, let's go to a metaphysical fair. You enjoy those?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's go." And then when we're on the way, I started to feel just this feeling like something's wrong. Something bad's going to happen today. Something's wrong. So we get to the fair, and it's just overtaking me. I'm like all anxious and nervous. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? We go up to this booth where this lady's taking aura photography. And she takes my picture, and she's supposedly she talks about what she sees and the colors. And we had one of my friends with us. His name's Corey, and he is not a spiritual person. He came just to make fun of everybody, and he's one of those guys. Okay,
Yeah.
so comes running up, and he's like, "Oh, what does it say? It says he's going to be rich." And the lady's like, "No, it says he has too many beliefs, and he's not centered in anything." I was like,
Ooh.
"What?" It was very interesting. I was like, I do have a lot. I don't really have any, like, concrete spiritual beliefs. I have all these considerations, but
Ideas and thoughts.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
have any faith or hope or, knowledge in anything, nothing I can lean on like that. Now, I did grow up Catholic, but the dogma behind it scared me away at an early
100%.
age. So I
Yeah. Yeah.
checked out of it. But so this lady tells me that, and then my whole world falls apart. Like, I'm going through this existential crisis, and this gut feeling is getting worse, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So this was actually going to be the same night that I went in and took mushrooms and did my monthly meditative journey. And so I was like, oh, maybe I can figure it out. Maybe I'll figure it out going in tonight and get a little guidance. So I dosed and I went in, and normally I make contact with my guides, what I understand is my guides, and they start talking to me and, give me a little guidance on things that I'm looking for and things like that. And this time, all they you can figure this one out on your own. We got to go, and we'll talk later. And I was just like fresh. I was like, what? I got like 5 hours of the hell am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, exactly. I'm buckled in.
So
That's yeah,
I
yeah.
was I was ready to do some healing, man, and then no. So they're like, just find something to entertain yourself with. I'm like, oh God. So I go, and our friend is still there, Corey, the guy who was, he's not spiritual at all. Doesn't never says anything really deeply philosophical. But this night was a little different, and I'll get to that. So he's over there, and I'm wigging balls, and I'm just like, look, I was gonna do some meditation, but something happened, can't do it. So you want to watch TV? He's like, yeah, let's go watch TV. So I'm sitting there, I can't watch it. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
my mind is just and it's not good because I still have that anxious feeling like something bad is going to happen. And so I'm like, let's go outside. We go outside and talk. And as we're talking, this bubble, like a cartoon bubble, forms around my head, and I can see my past lives. And it's like thousands and thousands of them. But guess what? It's not different past. It's this life. It's me doing this shit
Oh.
over and over and over again. And I'm like, what does that mean? And I was telling him, I'm like, I lived so many lives. And he knows I'm tripping. He's just, normally he's just says stupid shit. But
Smile and nod. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
this time, what I'll say is something took over my perception and spoke through him. Because the next day I asked him about if he said any of that. And he was like, fuck, does that sound like something I would say? And I'm like, no, you're right. So as I'm telling him this, he looks at me very stoic and serious, and he just doesn't even look like himself. And he's like, yeah, but doesn't it get refined with every lifetime? And I'm looking at the bubble and I'm seeing it, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, it's better
Whoa.
this time. It's better than the last one. And he's like, all right. So he starts, I don't know, these all these realizations about myself, and I'm like, why? I started to get angry at everybody in the world for not coming to the realization that we're, there's in a corrupt system and
It's
not
repeating it.
understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day. Yeah.
So I started to get mad at the world for not understanding these things. And I was telling him how my frustrations with it. And he said, well, at some point, it's a reflection of yourself. And again, this dude would have never said that. And that's when my world fell apart and just absolutely melted. I don't know what triggered, like how that triggered what happened next, but it did. So what happened next is I got this knowing. It's just a knowing that came over me, and like the voices were telling me, "You're dead. You just died." I was like,
Ooh.
"What? I died?" And I'm looking around,
I
and
didn't even know. Yeah.
everything is still, and Corey's just sitting there staring at me, and it's no longer Corey. He's not. He's just sitting there staring at me, and I'm like, I look at him. I said, "I died." He's like, "I don't know. Did you die?" I'm like, what the And I said, what's going on here? Am I tripping? What's going on? He's like, I don't know. You need to know what is going on here. I'm like, what the fuck? What is wrong with you? And then I said, can I go back to where I was? Let me just go back. He's like, yeah, but you got to start over from the beginning, man.
Ooh.
And that I just started freaking out. I'm like, what the fuck? He leaves the room and I'm like chasing him. By the time he gets downstairs, he's back to normal. And he's like, dude, I think you're freaking out a little bit. We need to go watch some TV. You need to calm down. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's over. I don't know. So we go sit, and I shit you not, this demon face like bursts out of the TV. And that's when I knew shit's not right. I look over at Corey and he looks like a corpse. He's dead. He's like
Oh
dead. And
shit.
he's like, just watch the TV, man. That's all you got to do. I went run back to my fiance. Well, she was my fiance at the time. That's right. So I went run back and she looked the same way. She looked dead and like she's yelling these things that she would never say to me. And it's crazy. Once again, my whole reality had been taken over.
Well,
I
after
walk
what he said,
outside.
you're on the other side almost, I guess. Yeah, so continue. Yeah.
So I walk outside and everything is pitch black. There's no street lights on. I'm like literally in a different realm. That's the only way I can
Mm-hmm.
describe it. So I go for I'm like, all right, maybe I did die. I'm gonna go find God and talk to him and find out what's going
Yeah.
on. I didn't know it. And I have a legit life review walking down, like my whole life is
Oh
flashing before
shit.
my eyes.
Yes, yes.
So I get to the end of the street and I don't know where I need to go to find God. Maybe I'll find the devil and I'll just tell him what a piece of shit he is. I don't know. So I'm like, I'm gonna go this way, and I turn right, and then there's a crossroads. I can go forward, and the street lights are beautiful and lit up, and it seems like a very good way to go. Or I could take a right, and it's pretty dark and dingy. So I'm like, I'm gonna go forward. As soon as I got under that first street light, it explodes, dude. It's gone. I was like, all right, so that's a sign I shouldn't
That's
go
an
this way.
illusion. Yeah.
So I took the other route and I'm walking for I don't know how long. There's no one outside. There's nothing. It's just like darkness and
Endless.
endless. And I'm walking on, but the houses are there. All the houses are there. There's no street lights on or anything. I decide, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to surrender. I just lay down and I said, either take me to heaven or take me to hell. I'm giving up. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And that's when this voice came over. And I look at the sky and the voice comes over. He's like, it's all about your perception, even in the afterlife. And I thought that was very interesting. So I sat up and the voice said, look around, find the light, but close your eyes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? It's like, yeah, look around, find light, but you have to close your eyes when you do it. So I did, and I see a light in my mind's eye, like off in the distance. I also see like demons' heads on the side and like everywhere else. And I'm like, okay, I
Distracting.
see a light. So I start walking towards it down the street. All of a sudden, I enter a neighborhood where the street lights are on. And I'm like, oh shit, this must be the right place. I see all these street lights are kind of dim. They're on. Looks not really inviting, though. I see one house, though, at the end, and it's so brightly lit. Got a big porch swing and a welcome sign that covers like half the front of the damn house, it looked like. So I was like, that's the one. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go have to knock on the door and see what happens because something was just telling me to go to someone's house and then knock on the door. I was like, either they're going to bring me to your life police, which is definitely hell because, the pig's got to be hell. So,
Yeah, right.
this is what it's going through my mind at the time. And I'm like, or I could knock on the door and it'll be an angel and he'll take me to heaven. So I said, fuck it. I go knock on the door. And this beautiful blonde haired lady answers. And I think this is like 9:10 at night. And she's like, can I help you? And I'm sure she could see my eyes just. And
Blown,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, is this where I'm supposed to be? And she said, oh, hold on a second. She closed the door. 2 minutes later, this big, burly dude, like just exuding positive energy, comes out. And he's like, hey, son, how can I help you? You okay? And I said, I think I died, sir. He's like, oh, he's like, well, shake my hand. I shook his hand. And he's like, no, you're not dead. You're here. It's like, could anything else have happened? I said, yeah, I ate a bunch of mushrooms, but I don't think that's it. He's like, oh, okay, all right. So he's like, "Would you like to go home?" And I'm thinking, I'm dead. I'm like in the afterlife. How am I going to get home? Or I'm in some other realm, you know? How am
Yeah.
I was like, "How are we going to get how you going to get me home?" He's like, "My truck's right there." Like, "Your truck." He's
You
like, "Yeah,
can't
give me."
drive through this. Yeah.
I said, "Give me your address." He said, "Give me your address. We'll go home." And he said, "But before that," he said, "Would you like to pray with me?" I said, "Yes." And I, like in my mind, this is the angel. This is it. This
Yeah.
is the moment. So we got down and he starts praying. I'm crying. The most beautiful moment like I've had all night, of course, but like it was amazing. And then we get in the car and he drives me to my house. And the whole time we're talking, and I don't really, I'm still out of it. And he tells me what he did, but it didn't register at the time. And we get to my house and I'm like, "Thank you so much, man. How do I get in there? Am I going to wake up like in a coma at the hospital? What's happening?" And he's like, "No, just go knock on the door. Someone should answer."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I just went up and I opened my door and there's my wife and my friend and they're worried as shit and they're normal and they're like, "What the fuck? Where did you go?" And again, I grab a bottle of wine and it's, "No, I'm not talking about this tonight."
Right.
So,
You just went
and
on a
that,
Lord of the Rings adventure, dude.
well, dude, this isn't even the clincher of everything. So the next day I wake up and I'm shook. I'm like, "What does all that mean? What the fuck does that mean?
Hmm.
Do I have to go out and find Jesus and leave my life that I'm living behind and stop doing the show and stop talking to all these
Once again,
wonderful
more
people?"
questions than answers, but
Yeah.
yeah, continue.
So
Yeah.
so then I decide, I'm like, I gotta talk to this I gotta talk to this dude that I met last night. So
Hmm.
I just start driving and I drive directly to his house. I don't know how I got there because I couldn't remember how I got there the night before, but I drove directly to it and I get out and knock. And his wife answers the door. It's the blonde haired lady. She's like, "Chris, thank God you're okay." And she gives me a big hug.
I thought she was
And
to say
she's
you again. No, I'm kidding. But go
and
ahead.
she's like, "I'm not gonna say his name, but would you like to go see so and so? He's a pastor and he's he's doing a mass today." And it was
Wow.
Sunday. And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I have to this is yeah, I got to do this."
Divine intervention
So,
shit. Yes, yeah.
dude, I went and all the information started coming in as soon as I sat in that pew about like about everything I'd gone through, why I had been doing Forbidden Knowledge News, why like the path that I had been led on had me look around at the people that were the most beautiful, wonderful people in the world, but they had this dogma and fear because of the infiltration of negative forces into religion and Christianity
Hmm.
itself. And it just all started coming to me that JC's the answer. He's the truth, the way, and the light, but everything else is a bunch of muddled nonsense. And
Yes.
there is some there is some things that are preventing Christians from having a good human experience. And it just all started coming to me. And I had a 2 hour talk with the preacher, and it was just validation because everything I was telling him, he was like rejecting. It was like, kind of afraid of. And you could tell he was nervous talking to me about these concepts and, and telling him everything that I've been through. And I thanked him. And we haven't really talked since then, but the revelations that have come in after that is pretty profound. That we're living multiple lifetimes here in this experience. That when we're ready, we'll find that truth, way, and light, and we'll zip on out of here. But yeah, man, that was my that was
It's
my
all about
positive experience.
experiences, though. It's all
Yeah.
about the experiences. Like, there's too many that are sheltered and stuck in their little shells, and whether you don't have to have a DMT experience or a mushrooms experience. I mean, sometimes they can help and kind of fast forward it a little bit if you're willing to do it with the right intent, like we were talking about earlier, not just like, hey, it's college, fuck it, I'm gonna take 5 grams of mushrooms and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Like that might not be a good idea for you then, But if you
Right.
go take 3 grams of mushrooms with a little bit of an intention and you've done it before, then you might actually like learn something from the process. And that's a lot of the problem that people don't understand is like some of these stories can sound crazy, but they're so eye-opening at the same time. Whether the other people around you know what you experienced or not, it's a one back to whether it's seeing UFOs, like a picture behind you, I want to believe, whether it's Bigfoot, like these one-off experiences that we have personal things that happen sometimes that we can't explain with words. You just
Yeah.
have to be there in the energy in the field of it and just experience it as an experience. And you try to tell your friends, "Oh, you got abducted by aliens or you saw Bigfoot in the woods while you were hunting." They're going to think you're crazy because they weren't there. But that's kind of the weirdness of this world is the more we think about shit in a weird way, yeah, the more we think about it, we can manifest it. But
Yeah.
as well, like the more you open your mind, the more you'll realize it's not as small, narrow-minded, whether it's religion or all of the above. But dude, Chris, this was fucking epic, dude. You just blew my mind on this last 30 minutes of both of those stories.
Right on.
Remind everybody where they can find you, man, and I would love to have
Yeah.
you back on again.
Right on. Well, thanks again for having me. This was fun. Love to do it again. You can find all our content on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news. We just got our big YouTube channel back. They zapped us 2 years ago, had over 30,000 subscribers, and gave it back to us for some reason. Apparently, they're giving a bunch of people back their
For
YouTube channels.
now,
So
but yes,
for
yeah.
now, but yeah, so go
Yeah.
check that out. And we're also on Rumble. We're surviving member of Rockfin and all podcast platforms. And also, please watch my films. Doors of Perception is on
Hmm.
Amazon Prime, and Occult Louisiana is on Tubi.
I
And
watched
thank you
Occult
again.
Louisiana. I haven't seen Doors of Perception yet, but I plan to.
Right on, right on.
Well,
Well,
dude,
thank you
Chris,
again, man.
this was a blast, man. Thank you again. And Stitt-Heads, thanks for tuning in, guys. You know, we've had a little bit of a roll of just kind of like Tripoli says, nothing but bangers for fucking guests lately, and we're gonna keep it going. And I got a bunch of bangers coming up as well. So yeah, guys, don't forget, we're out here putting the ass in classy. I'll see you next time, Stitt-Heads. Peace out.